What is the sound of one fist punching? You might say it's, or even, but it's actually... See, the path I walk, it's a lonely one, like a wolf. Not like someone who has no friends, okay? I'm a different type of guy. A wolf guy, that's me. Not like that. I'm like a cool, badass wolf, like a real one with a real sword, all right? It's not from an anime. I'm not precious about it. I just see it as a tool to do my job. Listen, I'm not one of those guys that doesn't know how to shower and is scared to talk to women. It's called being rugged, and I don't talk to women because I don't want them to get hurt. And by the way, I was invited to that Boner Preston stupid fucking party. I just didn't care. I was actually at a different party, but I didn't invite you because it was kind of hardcore and you probably couldn't handle it. So now that we all have an understanding of how cool I am, let's start the video game news show. I'm Lyle Rath, and this is Pregame Discharge, the only video game show that's not run by some kind of nerd. It's official! Nintendo announced the Nintendo Switch 2 in the most boringest way possible. In an official post, Dr. Nintendo himself basically said, okay, so yeah, we're making a Switch 2 and we're doing a presentation next month, but we're not going to be talking about the Switch 2, okay? We'll do that later this year. If your uncle says anything, just nod your head and be non-combative. We want to have a nice Thanksgiving, all right? So why even say anything at all? Probably because the Switch 2 is about to go into manufacturing and Nintendo suspected there'd be leaks, and that's maybe exactly what happened. Or maybe what I'm about to say is bullshit. But according to the rumors, the Switch 2 will sport 12 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it'll be running at 7,500 microtransfers per second, so it'll seem like a lot more. It'll have 256 gigs of storage with an SD slot, an 8-inch screen, which is a full inch bigger than the Switch OLED, but still half an inch shorter than me, ladies. I know you're all wet thinking about the Nintendo Switch 2 specs. Let's try to focus here. Also rumored is the NVIDIA Tegra 239 processor, which is an 8-core ARM-based processor that supports integrated graphics and DLSS upscaling. What this means in English is that if these specs are accurate, the Switch 2 will be swinging about on par with the Xbox Series S and Steam Deck with the advantage of newer hardware, or again, this could be an evil ruse and a complete waste of all of our time. Rumored release date is around March of 2025, and it's also heavily been suggested that it will be backwards compatible. Today's episode is sponsored by HelloFresh. Whether you're trying to save money, eat better, or stress less, HelloFresh is here to help you do all three by delivering fresh, ready-to-cook meals right to your door. When's the last time you made a nice meal for yourself, Don't you think you deserve it? It doesn't gotta be hard. HelloFresh handles the meal planning and the shopping. Everything arrives pre-portioned right to your doorstep, so all you gotta do is open the box and get cooking good looking. But what about me and my eccentric lifestyle, you may be asking, unless you don't have one of those? Well, in either case, HelloFresh has over 45 recipes and even more market items to choose from to support whatever lifestyle you have. Or, I mean, you like dessert? Because right now, you can click the link in the description or use my code and get 10 free meals plus free dessert for life while your subscription is active. Sponsors like HelloFresh help us make bigger and better videos, so if any of this sounds good to you, and it should, go try it out. Keanu Reeves is going to be Shadow in the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie, which I begrudgingly have to admit is pretty good casting.
Wake the fuck up, samurai.
I look forward to hearing all 8 lines of dialogue he'll have, but not as much as I anticipate the 80-minute subplot about Kevin the Human going to his nephew's bris or whatever. They're also making a Sonic game that's like a Fall Guys type thing called Sonic Rumble coming out later this year. The trailer showed off some unstable frame rate gameplay, which probably indicates that this is going to be yet another Sonic game that's potentially a good idea that gets squandered by being rushed out. I don't know if that's ironic or fitting that Sonic regularly suffers from being rushed. Sonic died for our sins. very quickly. Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is the Assassin's Creed finally set in feudal Japan, was announced with a cinematic trailer. The game will launch in November and will revolve around two protagonists, Naoe, who's your stealthy assassin shinobi, and Yasuke, a big burly samurai who is not Japanese, but for what it's worth in a work of fiction, was a real guy. The internet's being super normal about that, while the actual elephant in the room is that Ghost of Tsushima kinda already nailed not only feudal Japan, but also being the best Assassin's Creed game. So Ubisoft really has to either up the ante or get a time machine and go back to 2012 when they should have made this one. Everyone is fired again. Isn't the game industry fun? This time it's Microsoft shuttering studios. The most notable closures include Arcane Austin, which is responsible for legendary games like Dishonored and Prey, but also the unfortunate recent massive flopper that was Redfall. What's more unforgivable though is Tango Gameworks, which gave us The Evil Within, Ghostwire Tokyo, and most notably the phenomenal Hi-Fi Rush, which everyone loved and won a ton of awards. Oh, did it not sell well? Hey Xbox, remember how you announced it and hot dropped it immediately as a way to promote Game Pass? Cause I do. If Hi-Fi Rush was meant to be anything other than a loss leader, you should have fucking marketed the thing. I think it succeeded by any possible metric that it could have, but if there's one silver lining to this, it's that the shareholders will be happy for the next 5 minutes. Remember, when you're running a multi-billion-dollar company, you can't be thinking about longevity. Direct sacrifices to your future have to be regularly made so that the next quarterly earnings report looks good, because there's not going to be any more of those down the line. They just stop, so you just have to worry about the next one. Nintendo did an Indie World showcase and Hollow Knight Silksong was not there. But hey, it's been rated by a bunch of different countries equivalent to the ESRB, and it got an Xbox store page or something. It's gotta be soon, right? Anyway, the showcase featured a bunch of indie games. Highlights included a fast-paced Pizza Tower-esque side-scroller called Anton Blast, Europa, which looks to be a chill open-world exploration game where you play as a flying child, and a Ninja Turtles roguelike called Splintered Fate that looks to play a lot like Hades, but with co-op. Speaking of Hades, Hades 2 hot dropped into early access this month. I'm doing my best to hold out until 1.0, but I've heard it's a much more feature-complete early access than the first game got, and that game benefited a lot from having little guinea pigs running around in it for a while. So if you want to play it to make my experience better down the line, I would not stop you. BlizzCon is canceled. Not in the way that Blizzard usually gets canceled. It's actually not happening. This is maybe an unsurprising or even a good call from Blizzard. The last few years, BlizzCon has just been an avenue for Blizzard to pick up additional controversies.
Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones,
right?
But even that aside, it used to be a convention that you'd have to camp the website at midnight to get tickets to, and last year, it didn't even sell them all. I guess that's just what happens when people get tired of your shit. The developers of Dead Cells are making a roguelike Prince of Persia called The Rogue Prince of Persia. Hey, I guess you can't fault them for not being straightforward if that's like a standard you hold the titlers union to or whatever, you title weirdo. Go make a label, you fucking bitch. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 got announced, and it'll be delivering more Come to the Kingdom than ever before. The original delivery soured for a lot of people, partially because of its steep learning curve, and partially because it's just kind of janky. But anyone who's managed to chug past it has said that it's extremely fulfilling and there's loads to enjoy. And honestly, good for them. Star Wars Outlaws got a story trailer and is releasing with a $100 gold edition and a fucking $130 super special. This will be like $15 in a couple of years. You know that, right? Little Big Planet 3's servers have been taken offline with no warning whatsoever. Now, old game servers go offline all the time, but in the case of Little Big Planet, where the whole draw was that it was a platform for people to create custom content, it's kind of a shame to see it all go up in smoke without giving anyone a final opportunity to download things that... Alright, no one seems to give a shit. I guess I'll just talk about the stupid Helldivers thing. Helldivers 2 on PC was gonna make you make a PlayStation account, and now it isn't. More? Alright. People got mad, review bombed the game so much that it flipped the score negative, Steam started offering refunds, and the game got delisted in all the countries where PlayStation Network isn't available. Which, as it turns out, there's kind of a lot of those. Outside of those regions, I would usually say this is yet another case of gamers getting furious over nothing in a way that only the unemployed can, but I've reported something like 3 Sony data breaches in just my time doing this show, so I can't really blame anyone for not trusting them with their personal information. I do feel bad for the devs at Arrowhead who got caught between the big corporation and the angry mob, and it did just kind of seem to suck a lot of the wind out of the community. Although, as far as concurrent player numbers go, it didn't really do much if you needed a reminder that Twitter is not real life and gamers are bad at boycotts. Master Detective Archives Raincode, more like Ass Turd Dicktuctives Fart Hives Lame Chode, boom, got him, is getting released on all the platforms it isn't currently on. It was a Switch exclusive. Xbox did an indie showcase. Really, the only thing that stood out to me was a game called Farah, The Sundered Tribes, which is a multiplayer open world game that lets you fly and Spider-Man swing around and fight big things Monster Hunter style, and also it's a survival crafting game because what isn't nowadays? The footage looked promising but unpolished, so if this is fairly early in development, I could see it shaping up into something pretty interesting. Other than that, the presentation was basically an IGN podcast with protracted segments talking about Pal World.
Pal World! Yes!
And trailers for stuff we've already seen. But it makes sense that they wouldn't want to announce much here because it's almost June, so I guess that makes this when the mid-year pseudo E3 is happening. June 7th will be the Summer Games Fest with Mr. Videogames Jeff Keighley, followed by Day of the Devs, which focuses on more indie titles. On June 8th, there's the Future Game Showcase and Wholesome Direct, with focuses on games for people that are not like me and don't require constant simulated murder to relax. June 9th is the Xbox Game Showcase, followed by another Xbox presentation that'll focus on something that'll be announced at the Xbox Showcase. The official image for it has this Cerberus dog military emblem, so safe bet is this is some kind of Call of Duty or something, but who knows? Might be something new and original, or maybe they just don't do that anymore. June 10th is the Ubisoft Showcase, and somewhere floating around in the unannounced ether is that Nintendo presentation I mentioned earlier and the PC Gaming Show. And of course, if you're sitting here going, I want to watch all that shit, the good news is that we'll be covering all of it right here on Pregame Discharge. Anyway, here are the game releases for the month. I'm Lyle Raff, and this has been Pregame Discharge. We do these every month, and we also make cartoons and shit, so if you haven't yet, give us a scrabob and check them out.